Yo, what is up, YouTube? It is your boy Kevin from God Squad TV, and today we are going to be having a very different type of Let's Talk. Today we are going to talk about something that I'm personally very excited about for next gen, and that is Microsoft's purchase of Bethesda Game Studios. Now, in case you guys missed the news, Microsoft have bought Bethesda Game Studios for a whopping $7.5 billion. Now, I don't need to tell all of you how big of a purchase this is. This is one of the biggest acquisitions in gaming history. In fact, it is the second biggest acquisition in gaming history, with the most expensive being the $12 billion purchase of a certain mobile game developer. Now, I don't want to go into the details, the very depressing details of how a mobile game, or rather mobile gaming, is now seen as a more worthwhile investment than AAA gaming. That depresses me because of how disgustingly monetized mobile games are, so I'm not going to touch that. What I am going to talk about is what this acquisition means for Microsoft, for Bethesda, and for the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X in the next generation console war with the PlayStation 5. Now, to start things off, let's talk about what this deal does for Microsoft. Now, Bethesda Game Studios has a really loyal following. They are what many people coin as the king of Western RPGs. And that garnered a lot of fans in the US, especially fans who are die-hard Bethesda fans to this day. I get that there was a whole debacle that happened this gen with a certain game that ends with a 76, but I'm going to be discussing that when I talk about what this deal does for Bethesda. Right now I want to focus on what it does for Microsoft specifically. Now, considering that Bethesda has this loyal following is now going to be looking at Microsoft and saying, so, you now own the studio that pumps out our favorite games. Shut up and take my money. So, look, guys, this is actually pretty massive because some of you might not know this, but Microsoft has been trying to overtake Steam in trying to overtake the PC gaming market. Now, PC gamers have to buy and purchase games from Steam. One of the games that they have to purchase from Steam is, of course, the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Now, Skyrim is one of the biggest RPG games to have ever released in the history of gaming. Skyrim was a game that was released back in 2011, 2012. The game still, to this day, has a very loyal following of players, a very loyal modding community still pumping out really good mods to enhance the Skyrim experience. The Bethesda devs are still giving out regular updates with Skyrim. It's really massive, guys. And now Microsoft now owns Bethesda. That means that indirectly, or rather directly, they own Skyrim. They own any future Elder Scrolls game. They own any future Fallout games. They own any future Doom games, Wolfenstein. They own them all. And this is really massive for me because those games are really beloved, especially in the US. Now, I'm personally a very big RPG gaming fan, and I love RPG games, especially Skyrim. Skyrim is one of my favorite games. So for me, this deal really puts into perspective the next console war, and it talks about the intent that Microsoft had. Microsoft isn't just trying to compete with Sony and the PlayStation 4. They're trying to compete with the PC gaming market. They're trying to compete with Steam. And this deal is really a massive blow to Steam because it means that now Steam have to remove Bethesda games from their catalog on their website, and I hardly need to tell you how big this is because Bethesda games actually make a lot of money for Steam as a platform. You know, games like Fallout 4, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3, The Elder Scrolls 4, The Elder Scrolls 5, The Elder Scrolls 3, those games are still on Steam, and now those games are going to be the full property of Microsoft. Which means that there is a more than likely possibility that all of these games and all of these intellectual properties are going to wind up on the Xbox Game Pass. Keep in mind, Xbox Game Pass isn't just on the Xbox, it is on PC as well, which means that right now, PC gamers are now going to either have the option to A, pirate Skyrim, which is ultimately incredibly stupid because, especially in the US, piracy is something they take very seriously, or they can just pay the 150 Rand or the $15 subscription fees for Xbox Game Pass and just play the game from there. Now, this takes a lot of money out of Steam's pocket, as I said before, and I really think that this was a really brilliant move by Microsoft. This was Microsoft acting with intent, saying that next generation they are done playing around. They allowed the Xbox One to fall to the wayside, and I really feel like they're trying to make up for it with the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X with this Bethesda purchase. I think that's all I want to talk about on Microsoft's side. So right now I want to talk about what this does for Bethesda themselves. Now, again, as I said before, Bethesda is one of gaming's most beloved developers. They are the king of Western RPGs, as I said before. Bethesda gave us intellectual properties like, as I said before, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Starfield, Wolfenstein, Doom, and Prey. Those are actually very massive gaming properties right there. They break in a lot of money. Much like BioWare, they were one of gaming's most beloved developers until this generation. Now, for BioWare, their fall from grace started with Mass Effect Andromeda. But for Bethesda, their fall from grace started with the unmitigated disaster that is Fallout 76. Now, Fallout 76, I'm not gonna lie to you, it is a bad game. It it feels dated, it feels old, it feels unbelievably buggy. It is unbelievably atrocious that Bethesda even thought to release a game in that state. What's even more disgusting is the fact that Bethesda thought, let's release an unbelievably broken game and then monetize the absolute hell out of it. There was a lot of atrocious decision making behind Fallout 76, and it led to people seeing Bethesda in a completely different light. Now, Bethesda now have the means to recover from this with the Microsoft purchase, because one of the many things that they were criticized for with Fallout 76 was the use of their outdated graphics engine. I swear to God, Fallout 76 is one of the newer releases of this generation, released in around 2019. Yet when you look at the game, it plays, looks, and feels like a game from the Xbox 360 era, and I'm talking about early Xbox 360 era. I do not understand why Bethesda have this insistence on using an outdated graphics engine considering how much money they have. Now, Microsoft buying Bethesda could clean up the bad image that Bethesda have this generation. Microsoft could force Bethesda to either upgrade or outright replace their outdated graphics engine. With Microsoft's money backing Bethesda, keep in mind Microsoft have a lot of money. I mean, for the love of God, they bought Bethesda for $7.5 billion. I think they have enough money to be pumping a ton of cash into Bethesda. Bethesda might have a bigger budget to work with future titles. And considering the fact that Microsoft is going to want these titles to be optimized for the Xbox and PC, you can expect that the experiences for these games might end up being different for the Xbox and PC than they will be for the PS5. I really feel like this deal really helps Bethesda a lot, because I feel like Bethesda have fallen to the wayside this generation, and this deal could end up being the salvation that Bethesda needs next gen. Now, finally, I am going to talk about what this deal means for the Xbox and its competition with the PlayStation 5 next generation. Now, first things first, this is going to make Game Pass that much more appealing. Now, for those of you who don't know what Xbox Game Pass is, you've been living under a rock, get out. But let me explain. Xbox Game Pass is a subscription that Microsoft put out late this generation, where for $15 a month in the US or 150 Rand a month here in South Africa, you have access to over 100 games. Now, this purchase completely shown the Xbox One in a completely different light this generation, because if we're being entirely honest, the Xbox One was in a lot of trouble this generation. And the Game Pass became the salvation that the Xbox One ultimately needed. Now, if we're going to look about how this is going to affect the next generation of gaming, all of a sudden, Xbox Game Pass starts looking more appealing when you're on the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X, because yes, some Bethesda games are going to be exclusives, while others are going to be um, cross-gen, or rather not cross-gen, I mean cross-platform, on a game-by-game basis. Now, I want you to understand what this could mean. It could mean something like, say, for example, one of the games that everyone has been waiting for, the biggest anticipation, The Elder Scrolls 6, wherever that's going to be. The Elder Scrolls 6 is going to release for both Microsoft's Xbox consoles next generation and for the PlayStation 5. Now, think about yourself as a person who's working on a budget. You like playing the Elder Scrolls, you like Bethesda games. What does this mean for you? I want you to think about this decision very rationally. Completely throw out your PS5 fanboy logic and your Xbox fanboy logic. I want you to sit down and think about this in terms of affordability and in terms of logic. If you are presented with a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox and you want to play Bethesda games, which would you choose? The PS5, where you have to buy these Bethesda games for full price, or the Xbox One, where you could just wait a few months after these games release and just have them on Game Pass already for only 150 Rand a month for as per the Xbox Game Pass subscription. Now, do you understand how this makes the Xbox more appealing next generation? The Xbox now becomes the console for people who are working on a budget, the console for people who can't afford to be paying 1,700 Rand for games, the console for people who want to game using a budget. I mean, for me, this really makes the Xbox that much more appealing next generation, and that's why this was an incredibly smart move by Microsoft. Also, think about what this could mean. Any new RPGs that Bethesda releases, any new intellectual properties that Bethesda decides to create, could end up becoming Xbox exclusives. I mean, I understand Starfield, Elder Scrolls, and Fallout might not become exclusives because, those are already established intellectual properties that I think Bethesda would want on PS5 as well and PS6 going forward. But say, for example, Bethesda decides to create an entirely new RPG series. That means that that new RPG series will most likely be an Xbox exclusive. All of these new IPs might end up only being available for PC and Xbox, which means that PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 6 fans might end up being thrown to the wayside who want to play these Bethesda games. They might have to end up buying a PC. Let's also look at what this could also mean for example, Elder Scrolls 6 or Fallout 5, Starfield, etc., etc. If those games are now going to be optimized, especially for Xbox and for PC, that would kind of make the PlayStation variances of those games completely inferior to the Microsoft versions. That is absolutely massive. I mean, for most people, it doesn't really matter. Um, in my opinion, it wouldn't really matter on my side either, but there are some people who actually value power, graphic fidelity, and visuals in gaming. For me, I go with, do you give me enough to go on in terms of customization? Do you give me a good story? Do you give me phenomenal gameplay? That's kind of what I go with. But again, there are some people, for them graphical fidelity counts for a lot, and if these games are going to be optimized for the Xbox One, sorry, the Xbox Series S and Series X. And that kind of raises a few questions of, am I getting a PS5 or am I getting an Xbox? And I feel like this is what this deal has kind of done. It has now raised the question more and more. It has added more stakes to the answer behind the question of PS5 or Xbox. And I think that's something that Microsoft wanted with this deal. They wanted to be put into, in the question of who is ultimately going to have the edge in the console competition next generation. I mean, let's be honest, PlayStation kind of won this generation over, and I think Microsoft decided that, you know what, instead of trying to mount a last minute comeback, let's rather pool all our resources into trying to get back our fan base next generation. Now, I don't know if they're a bit too late for that or not, but to each their own. I actually think that Microsoft still stand a chance next generation. Now, I feel like that's all the talking points that I really want to talk about with regards to this deal. I really feel like this deal was a very positive move by Microsoft. It was a very aggressive move. It is a move that now puts Sony under a lot of pressure, because now Sony third party studios are going to have to work that much harder, because it's not going to be as easy this generation. This generation, they had God of War, they had Horizon Zero Dawn, they had Spider-Man. They had all of these good exclusives that kind of made it a one-sided console war, in my personal opinion. It kind of made the console war this generation one-sided. Whereas now, Microsoft with this Bethesda deal are now mounting a comeback. They are making it apparently clear to Sony that we are not here to play around next generation. We are here to take the fight to you. They are here to take the fight to the PlayStation. Microsoft is here to take the fight to Steam. Microsoft wants every single gaming market coming to them, and I think this is absolutely brilliant by them. It is an aggressive business move that is ultimately very positive for gaming, because I don't know about any of you guys, but for me, this generation felt like kind of a waste, because the fact that PlayStation was winning so convincingly kind of made this generation a bit dry for me. The fact that Microsoft weren't doing enough to try to save this generation, for me, it really made me see Microsoft in a very different light. Now, I own an Xbox One, and I own an Xbox One for my own reasons. I could have bought a PlayStation 5, a PlayStation 4, I mean, but I decided to go with an Xbox One. Now, it is a decision I had to think about a lot, because when I saw all of these amazing exclusives that PlayStation had, it really put doubt in my mind as to whether or not I should get an Xbox. And the addition of Game Pass is ultimately the reason I decided to go with the Xbox over the PlayStation. Now, that sole decision, that one thing was the only reason I ended up buying an Xbox. If there wasn't Game Pass, I would honestly own a PlayStation 4 right now. And I feel like that really made this generation a bit dull for me, because Microsoft didn't do enough, but it looks like they're trying to rectify that situation for next generation. And I think this is a really good move for gamers in general. But anyway, guys, those have been my thoughts about the Microsoft and Bethesda purchase. If you guys have anything more to add, or anything you want to talk about, anything you want to correct me on, or anything you want to kind of have a conversation on down in the comments, please comment and I will answer you as soon as I can. I kind of see notifications a bit late, but I really am interested to engage with you guys on this matter, on this topic, because this is really, really good for me. I feel like this is a very positive move. Anyway, guys, that has been Kevin from God Squad TV. This has been Microsoft buys Bethesda. Let's talk. Anyway, guys, have a good day. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit that like button. And if you like the video, share it around. Let the people know. You understand? You understand? Anyway, guys, this has been Kevin from God Squad TV, signing off. Have a good day, guys.